Haiti borders with the Dominican.
Her name is Serena Buffalino. They call her Mrs. B, and her class always begins with a pledge.
Something local, something global. Haiti.
They're words that carry
Yes.
weight here. Helping yourself means helping others, giving back, here and a world away in Haiti.
And nobody's helping them, except for people like us.
It was through her the class learned of Haiti, of the nearly 1 million orphans, many with no school, no support, no Mrs. B in their lives.
They could not wrap their head around that.
Mrs. B's students are among Toronto's most at risk. Their challenges vary from emotional and behavioral difficulties to learning disabilities. Their trauma so severe they can't function in a regular school setting, and we aren't allowed to show most of their classmates.
For most of the kids, most of society has turned them away. And in this classroom, they're accepted. They're accepted no matter what for who they are.
Take Yolanda. She came here last year so burdened and withdrawn, she would often fall silent, sometimes for days on end. It was, she says, Mrs. B's patience, her quiet encouragement, that saved her.
She actually saves people's lives from dangers.
And perhaps that's why these marginalized kids feel such a kinship with the orphans of Haiti, and why they were moved to act.
And so when Yolanda and Jackie and Patrick said, well, Miss B, we need to build them a school.
Build a school, no easy task. They started out raising money. They sold samosas, washed cars, screened movies, you name it. And in just a few months, this little class raised $20,000. So much, it's not just a one-room schoolhouse they can build, but a full 3-story school. And so Mrs. B set off on a journey she'd dreamed of, up into the dusty mountains above Port-au-Prince to a town called Canaan. It's home to thousands of earthquake refugees who live with no running water, no electricity, and no school, until now. The first step was a temporary school. It's up and running, 53 students already in uniform. The permanent school for 250 is growing from its foundations.
It makes me want to cry because she just makes me feel so awed, and I'm very proud of her.
All of this because of a handful of students back in Canada and Mrs. B, the teacher who believed in them.
These are for you.
At another fundraiser, a special tribute to the students, accepted by someone who without Mrs. B might not be here.
They believe in me and I believe in them, and together we not only change our lives, but we change the world around us.
For inspiring great things and seeing the potential in everyone, Serena Buffalino is this week's Everyday Hero.
This is the reason why I do what I do, is because of Yolanda and all the...
Good morning, bonjour, comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao, hola, ohio, bienvenue, wan ying, bienvenidos, yokoso, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. I want to say a special welcome to some of our new family members of Gem Hunter. I want to say welcome to Anne in Scotland, Claudia in Guatemala, hola, Sandy, who is from Africa, but she lives in France, so bonjour, and of course, Elaine, who is from Canada, so I don't know what part of Canada, so I'll say good morning, hello, and bonjour. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every week, I have the honor and privilege of taking you on a journey to places you've never been before, to stories that you've never heard before. Each week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take you on a mental, physical, and spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. And because I know the transformational powers of stories, because I've seen it work not only just in me, but in people all throughout the world, all throughout history, I know that somewhere along this journey that we will take together, somewhere along this journey, you will hear a story that will move you, a story that will make you look at the world in a different place, in a different way, look at yourself in a different way. And my job each and every week is to create a sound that you never heard before, a sound that will resonate inside of you, a sound that you can use as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge, maybe as a seed to help you begin the journey of discovering the value of your own stories. Today is December 1st. This is the first month of December, and I am so really excited about it. This is definitely one of those shows. In fact, this whole month, just bring a piece of paper and a pencil with you because we are going to just have a ball. This is truly going to be an adventure. This month, we have 3 fantastic gemstones for this that are the gemstones of December. We have turquoise, we have tanzanite, and we have zircon. And we'll discuss each one. Just to let you know that turquoise is the stone of wholeness and communication and spiritual balance. Whereas tanzanite is a stone that links the heart and the mind together. It's kind of like an enchanted spiritual perception stone. It adds to compassion and self-determination. And zircon is an exciting stone because zircon literally stimulates all the chakras. And those of you who are more into the whole concept of metaphysics, as I say to you each week, I'm learning this, but it's fascinating, not just in the fact of what they're saying the gemstones do, but when you look at it from a historical or even a scientific point of view, you can understand how they got to that point. But today, like I said, today we're going to start out with turquoise. And what I'm going to show you today is, I always talk about in my opening, discovering the value of your own stories. And I know some of you are saying, God, we're going to talk about that again. It's because there's so many different ways I want people to understand value. And what happened yesterday, I had a plan already to talk about the gemstones that we talk about. Turquoise is one of them. But what happened yesterday really shows you something that I've been saying to all of you for over a year now. This is our second season. So I've been saying this over and over again, and I realized I haven't said that recently. So let me say that again, especially to all our new viewers. Nothing has value without a story. Go ahead and write that down. Nothing has value without a story. And I want you to just take a few minutes to think about that. Think about just the depth of that concept, that whatever you have that is of value to you, the reason why it has value is because there is a story attached to it. And I told you that what I do is I'm an appraiser. I appraise gemstones and precious metals and fine jewelry. And when you appraise a gemstone, you have to understand, where did it come from? Who owned it before? What was the process? How was it made? How was it designed? Where was it found? And once you understand that story increases or decreases in value. As I told you, there's a principle in appraisal studies that says, there's a principle of progression and regression that says that if an object, they didn't say what it is, they said if an object is in proximity of something that has increasing or decreasing value, then that object takes on the value of that thing that is next to, respectively. So meaning, if you have if you have an object, if I have this cup, this is my Darth Vader cup, thank you. If I have this cup, and if this cup is in Kmart, this cup is going to have a certain price. And because it's in Kmart, you're not really expecting to pay a whole lot of money for this cup. But if this same cup, nothing changed, if this same cup is now found displayed in Tiffany's or Cartier, this cup automatically increases in value. Why? Nothing has changed about the cup. I didn't add diamonds or gold. It's just because it's in proximity to something that has value. And usually, the reason why you don't know the value of it is because you don't know the story. And something happened yesterday that maybe want to take this show in a whole different direction today, because when I was looking at it, I said, oh my God, I didn't really realize. Did you see it? Did you see how they celebrated a superhero yesterday? Yeah. Yes, yesterday, the country, my adopted country of France, literally, it was a national celebration where what they did was they brought Josephine Baker, not her actual body, she's buried in Monaco, but Josephine Baker, sorry about my camera today, this is strange. Josephine Baker is literally being brought to what's called the Pantheon. The Pantheon is the place where heroes exist. We have heroes here. All the people, some of the people that are in. Thank you. My camera is a little slow today. Sorry, technology, but the show must go on. The Parthenon is a building where in France they have all the national heroes. I mean, people like Jean Reno, Victor Hugo, who the famous poet, Louis Braille, who was the person who invented Braille, Toussaint Louverture, who is the general. Literally, he was the general. They called him Napoleon Roy, which I thought was my name, but he was the general who literally organized a revolution in Haiti. And she was also, Josephine Baker was also put in the same building that Madame Marie Curie is buried. Now, to understand what the Parthenon is, you have to understand that all the great people that France said that changed the country, changed the world, is buried there. And here is Josephine Baker buried in that same, symbolically, because they just took her ashes from, literally, she's actually, her body's buried in Monaco, but they took some of her ashes from Monaco, some of her ashes in the United States, and some of her ashes, of course, in France, and put it all together and put it symbolically in the Parthenon yesterday. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is, how many people knew that? Many people know of Josephine Baker, the dancer, you know, the woman with wearing the scantily clothed dancer, actress, entertainer. And people know that of her. They knew that she was someone, a very famous dancer from the 1920s in the jazz era. She represented that whole era. But the thing you don't really realize, even though you've heard of Josephine Baker, that Josephine Baker grew up poor. She was a poor little black girl in Missouri, from Missouri. She was married when she was 13 years old. She was married for about a year. And because of her body, because of her looks, she was sexualized from an early age. And that didn't stop her. She quit school. She left school to start dancing. She was dancing on the street corners in St. Louis and became more and more popular. She got married again at 15. That marriage didn't work because she eventually wanted to go on the road, and there was an opportunity for her to go to France. She had issues with her mom. She loved her mom dearly, and I think her mom loved her, but they just couldn't get along. So she went to France. And there she began to find fame and fortune. But what most people don't realize, and which I didn't realize, is who Josephine Baker was. I knew that she was a dancer. I knew that I saw the pictures of her in the banana skirt and the jiggling and doing the cross-legged thing. I saw that before, but I didn't realize that Josephine Baker was a spy for the resistance, for the French resistance. She was a spy for the French resistance. What she would do is they would, of course, they didn't think much of her because she was just this little black girl. And you know how the Nazis felt about anybody who wasn't blonde hair and blue eyed. So they didn't pay her any mind. She was just a sex object. But what she was doing was listening to the German generals and officers that would come to the different clubs to see her, and she would have the microphones in her outfits, on her bananas, on her card, on her fan, listening to the information. And because of the work that she had done in World War II, this little black girl from Missouri, because of the work that she had done in World War II, they awarded her the medal of the national liberation. She literally received it's called the Cross de Guerre, the Cross de Guerre. This is basically a cross that's given to, how do they say it? Let's say, awarded for individuals who distinguish themselves by acts of heroism involving combat with enemy forces. Josephine Baker received this award. That same girl, and this is again the 1920s, the 1930s, when, of course, African Americans in the United States were being treated the way they were being treated. She was being treated like this. So she went to France, and that young woman, that beautiful young woman, had the courage, the strength, the perseverance, the dedication to help her country. She felt like France gave her life, so she was willing to give her life for France. And because of that, yesterday was truly an incredible day because they buried that young woman, that young Black girl, in the most prestigious, sacred places in all of France, the Pantheon. Next to, in the same building, Madame Marie Curie and again, another story. If you don't know who Madame Marie Curie is, I want to introduce you to the baddest, the most incredible, one of the most incredible people, certainly the most incredible woman in the whole history of science. This is a woman who was from Poland. She took on France as her country. She married Pierre Curie. She loved the country. And this woman won 2 Nobel Prizes. The only person in the history of the world, not Einstein, not Newton, none of those guys. The only person in the history of the world, the only woman to have ever won, the only person who have ever won 2 Nobel Prizes. One in 1903, one in 1911. In physics and chemistry, this is who Madame Marie Curie is, and Josephine Baker. Let me come on this side. Josephine Baker was honored in a country that she wasn't born in. And yet she was held in that level or that high esteem because of what she did. Nothing has value without a story. One of the other awards that they gave her, that she earned, was the Chevalier of the Legion d'Honneur. This is the Legion of Honor. A Chevalier, for those of you who don't know, is a knight. Josephine Baker was knighted. Not recently, yesterday. She was knighted back. It had to be back in the 60s because she was knighted by General Charles de Gaulle. So again, here is a young Black woman. She was older then, but here's a young Black woman from Missouri, who was knighted in France because of what she did was so unbelievable. She changed the country so much that she was knighted with one of the highest awards that you can receive. In fact, you see this eagle here? You know what this eagle represents? This guy. The Chevalier de Legion d'Honneur was created by Napoleon. And yet, this woman was not only buried, Josephine Baker was not only buried with Madame Marie Curie, but also buried in the same mausoleum as General I can't pronounce his name correctly right now, sorry. But the general, the Black Napoleon. Black Napoleon. That's who Josephine Baker was. So this is the award that she got, that she was a knight. She was given the highest honor for her military expertise, for what she did to change the country. And yesterday, the whole country of France, the whole world celebrated this woman. And I just think that we should, when I say nothing has value without a story, this is what I'm talking about. How many people, 5 minutes ago, when I first started talking to you about Josephine Baker, you might have just thought she was a dancer. You might have just thought that she was a pretty light-skinned girl who was dancing on the stage, half naked. And now, because you understand the story, her value increases. Who she is increases. And because of what she did, because of the sound of what she did, Years later, she died in what, 1975, 1976, and here it is, 2021. She is being honored for what she's done. Nothing has value without a story. When people in my region of France, Southwest France, woke up, this was the newspaper. For love of France, for the love of France, pour l'amour de la France, de la France. This little black girl from Missouri has so intoxicated the people around her. She adopted 12 children from all different nationalities and races because she believed in, as President Macron said, in universalism, meaning people coming together. And because of her story, because of the sound that she created years from now, years later, she is being honored on that level. To be in the same building, to be in the same room as some of the greatest people in history. And there she is. There she is. Miss Josephine Baker, the Black Pearl, the Black Venus. That's what they called her. Josephine Baker, the Black Pearl. So what does that have to do with gemstones? Other than the fact that her nickname was Black Pearl. My point is, today's gemstone, we're talking about turquoise, or as the French used to call pierre turquoise. Pierre turquoise, which means Turkish stone. Turquoise has been around. This is the original gemstone. This is a gemstone that has been mined since 5000 BC. Simple gemstone, simple. It is for those of us, we always have to get into the science of it. This is an aluminum, copper aluminum phosphate. The reason why it is this blue color is because of the copper. And as I told you before, there's two types of gemstones. There's gemstones that are allochromatic, which means the color of the gemstone comes from something from the outside. It has this structure, and then an element comes from the outside into that structure, and the way it interacts with the light creates that color. Turquoise is an idiochromatic gemstone, which means that the color is built in. It is what it is. You can heat it, you can treat it, you can increase, but the bluish color that people love is due to the copper that's already built into the structure of that gemstone. Now, the question is, for me, how is it that a gemstone that's been mined for 5,000 years, I mean, everybody had it. And that's the thing. How is it that a gemstone that can be found in different places all over the world, but the key thing is, how is it still valued by people as diverse as Egyptians? The Assyrians had it, the Persians, the Aztecs. This is the national stone of Iran and Iraq. This is the national gemstone of Iran, actually. The national gemstone of Iran. The oldest gemstone, one of the oldest gemstones in history. This is the original gemstone. In Tibet, this gemstone turquoise has been prized for hundreds of years, centuries. If you are in Tibet, this gemstone represents the highest level of spiritual connectedness, the blueness, the matrix, which is the black line. All those things come together to create, as they say, a wholeness. This is the gemstone that brings a wholeness, a communication, a spiritual enlightenment. So the question is, how is it that people from Egypt, people from South America, people from Central America, the Aztecs, how is it that they, of course, we have to talk about the Native American population, the let's say the Apaches used to think that turquoise would help them with their accuracy with their weapons. The Navajo would use turquoise to pray for rain. The Zuni tribe, let me think. The Zuni tribe were it protected them from demons. So how is it that a gemstone with various different locations, various different periods of time, and this is not just turquoise, this is a lot of gemstones, but I want to ask you, why is it that a gemstone can be so readily accepted all over the world, different periods of time, have pretty much the same feeling for that gemstone, and yet we have people who have done great things, not only with their lives, but in history, great things. How could a woman who comes from the United States move to France and now, years later, be buried in the holiest, most sacred place in France, and yet she couldn't get that same love and that same respect right where she lived, here in the United States? So we're gonna unpack that right after our commercial break. And we are back. We are today, this December 1st. Welcome to everyone. Today is December 1st. Happy birthday to all the people born in December. And today we are honoring our December people by talking about the first of 3 gemstones that we will be discussing, turquoise. All these stones are beautiful collection of turquoise. So you can see the variety of different colors and blue and the matrix that going through the gemstones through the turquoise. And before the commercial, I asked you a question. How is it that a gemstone that can be old from the beginning of time, from the beginning of mankind, how could a gemstone that has been around since 5000 BC be so revered in places from all around the world? How could cultures and empires and people, I mean, Cleopatra wore turquoise. Alexander the Great, when he was invading the Middle East and Iraq and Syria, he was going for silver and turquoise. One of the stones he loved was that, because of what he felt, or the blue, the color, the way it made him feel, the respect, the only the people of power could wear this stone. The Aztecs had feelings about it. It was a stone that allowed them to talk to their gods. Of course, we know the Native Americans. Some of the best turquoise in the world comes from southwestern United States. So how is it that a gemstone can be so respected and valued all over the world, over hundreds, thousands of years, and yet a person is not. And the real question is, the real answer to all that is stories. We know the stories of the gemstones that we're talking about. We understand those stories. We were told those stories. Someone told the people throughout history what turquoise is. They understood what turquoise meant. When you found turquoise, or you bought turquoise, or you saw turquoise in a store, you understood what it meant. Maybe you understood it just from the color. Maybe you understood it from the different shapes, or the different types of lines, the matrix going through it. Maybe that resonated with you. Maybe that turquoise was passed down from your someone who went on a trip somewhere and saw this beautiful turquoise. Maybe you went to Arizona or Nevada or some places in the Southwest United States and found this beautiful Native American turquoise, and you brought that home, and now that turquoise is an heirloom for you and your family. So how is it that you understand turquoise, but you don't understand, you don't know a person that literally has won the highest honor, given one of the highest honors in France? How is it that you don't know that this woman that was also a knight, that she was knighted? What's the difference between turquoise and Josephine Baker? The real difference is what I've been saying from the very beginnings of the show. It's the story. This is the reason why you have to begin to first understand and be able to tell your own story. Because if you don't tell your story, people are not going to understand your value. They're not going to know who you are. I think a couple of shows ago, I said to you that kind of a different direction from the concept of nothing has value without a story. And even once you have that story, you have to understand that everyone is not going to hear your story. Everybody's not going to understand who you are. People are going to see you in a particular way, and they're going to make up their mind whether or not they like you or they don't. So there are lots of people who love turquoise. I have clients who think turquoise is just, and you see people all the time with turquoise rings, turquoise pendants, turquoise necklaces, turquoise earrings, and they feel an affinity towards turquoise, and they can tell you, if you ask them, why do you like turquoise? What will they do? They will tell you a story. That's how you know you're dealing with value. The second you ask someone why do they have it? Why do they own it? Why are they wearing it? Why is it with them? Why did they buy it? The second you ask them that, and the moment after that, and they start to tell you a story, then you understand on a very primitive level that it must have value. So if that's true for turquoise, how is that not true for you? How is it not true for you to not only understand your value, but understand the value of the people around you? Understand, that's what made yesterday so magnificent. That here is a little girl. Here is this little average girl. Look at her. It's not like she was born with just this, her smile, her body, this is who she. This is who she was as a little child, Josephine Baker. And yet she rose to the point in her life, despite having 4 marriages, despite being married at 13, despite quitting school. She didn't finish high school. I don't know whether or not she got a GED later on in life, but I know she didn't finish high school. And we're talking about being Black in America in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. So exactly, GEDs and all these things didn't exist. So here's a girl, here's a young woman. Here's a girl who became a young woman who utilized the talents, the skills of who she was. She understood that thing that inside of her. She understood the music, literally the music that was inside of her, because her mother, part of the reason why she and her mother didn't get along, because her mother thought she was ridiculous for being an entertainer. She basically cast her out, girl, just go. Just, how I'm talking to the parents now. You know how we as parents, sometimes children will have ideas. Mom, I want to be whatever. And we go, really? This is why, for what? My mother told me, I remember one time my mother said, why don't you just be a bus driver? I'm like, I don't want to be a bus driver. A bus driver? That's not what I want to do. And my point is, the most important thing that you can do in your life is to hear your own music. Because people are going to tell you, oh, you're too Black. Oh, you're too small. Oh, you're too this. Oh, you're too ugly. Oh, you're too white. Oh, you're too short. Or you're too whatever. And they're going to tell you that. And until you get to the point where you begin to understand your own stories, then you're never going to understand your own value. You're never going to understand how you're going to get from here to here. She didn't plan it. She didn't grow up and say to her mother, Mom, one day I'm going to be buried at the Parthenon. I'm going to be sitting in the same room as in the same building as Alexander Dumas. Alexander Dumas was the author to, little novels like The Count of Monte Cristo, the Three Musketeers. He's in here. There are 80 people buried in the Parthenon. Only 6 of them, now with Josephine Baker, only 6 of them are women. The first woman was Madame Marie Curie, the first woman ever to be buried in the Parthenon on her own merits. First in 1903, because she won the Nobel Prize in physics, and in 1911, she won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. And here, this Black woman from Missouri is in the same building as Madame Marie Curie. That is the power of understanding the value of your own stories, of what you can do, of what you bring to the world. So her mother never, just like so many of us, never saw how dancing, and she wasn't educated. I was reading some documentary I was watching some documentaries and reading some stories about her. She was not professionally trained as a dancer. Her son, one of her last living sons, were saying that she basically just did what she felt. She felt the music. She knew that the only way that she was going to make it to where she wanted to be in her life was to use the gifts that she had. So she used her look. She used her sexuality. She used her rhythm. She used the way she understood music in the times, and she became that. Oftentimes you will hear me quote different movies. And there's that scene in Batman Begins, as I told you before, where Batman is little before he became Batman, and Ra's al Ghul says to him, oh, a man could be trapped in his own need for self-gratification, he could be destroyed or locked up. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and then if they can't stop you, you will become something else entirely, in which Bruce Wayne says to Ra's al Ghul, which is, and he said, legend, Mr. Wayne. Now, yes, he was talking to mythical Bruce Wayne and mythical Batman, and that was only a story. But think about what he said. If you believe in your ideas, if you believe in your stories, and then if they can't defeat you, racism, sexism, all the things that Josephine Baker had to endure. This is the woman that literally was taping the Nazis, the Gestapo, the SS. This was a group of people, the military, that had absolute no problems from just shooting people, killing people, taking them to concentration camps. Not only did she live through that, but she thrived. She became a national hero. She became, as that character in that movie, she became a legend. And I just think that is so empowering when you think about how that process works, whether it be for gemstones. This is a stone that's been around for 5,000 years. They were mining this. So when you hold a turquoise in your hand, you're holding something in your hand that people from all around the world revere. Hold it high esteem, that this is a stone of wholeness. This is as someone who studied Zen Buddhism, I never went to Tibet, but I can understand when you're talking about a gemstone that represents wholeness, when you're talking about a gemstone that talks about spiritual expression, when you're talking about a gemstone that not only that wholeness comes from you being able to communicate on a higher level, and that's what this gemstone means. So the only way this gemstone actually has that power is what? You have to believe. You have to believe that it has that power. So if I tell you this today, you're hearing this power and you're saying, wow, yeah, I want that in my life. And you go to the store and you buy a piece of turquoise jewelry. The moment that you buy it, the moment that you already begin to think that it is true, that this gemstone will give you that types of powers and ability, then that means you're already on the way of making that become a reality. That's the power of stories. That's the power of once upon a time. Once upon a time, Josephine Baker was just a little girl in Missouri. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, Josephine Baker had dreams of communicating to the world. Once upon a time, this little girl, despite all the things that she had to go through, the antagonists in her story, racism, sexism, all the things that she had gone through in her life. And yet she became what we saw. This is an ad for Josephine Baker, and you see it's a little jaguar, and you see her, of course, the legs, her pressed hairdo, Casino de Paris. Now, what that jaguar is, if you understand the history of jewelry, jaguar was the same. Some of those theaters right on the Champs-Élysées is right across the street or right down the street from Cartier. Cartier's symbol is the jaguar. with the green eyes. Notice the green eyes. Notice the green eyes giving Josephine flowers. So she had transcended her color. She had transcended her sex, and she used it to become something else, to become a legend. So my question for today and for whole this month, what story are you ready to tell? And when I say tell a story, I'm not talking about telling a story just on a stage of people or on YouTube or whatever. I'm talking about the most important person you have to tell a story to is who? To yourself. I'm sure Josephine Baker had doubts. She had renounced her citizenship from the United States because this wasn't her home. She sang that famous song where she said she had two loves, her country and Paris. Because France was the country that for her took her in. France was, she said it was the first time in her life when she got off the plane that a white man held her hand and greeted her. It was in France that she felt that she saw beyond her color. And it was in France that she began to hear and discover the value of her own story. And she became the Black Pearl, the Black Venus, Josephine Baker. So the question is, and the assignment is today for this week until I see you next week, the assignment is today is, what are you going to do with your story? I want you to write me. I want you to send me an email to at gemhunterstories@gmail.com. Send me an email. Talk to me. Let me know. And I appreciate Ann and Claudia and Sandy and Elaine coming in today, and so many other people from all around the world. Write me. Tell me your stories. Tell me what you're getting out of this program. And please subscribe. Subscribe to the show, because it does, I don't understand all that, the algorithms and things of this, but what I would like is for you to tell me your dreams. Tell me your stories. Tell me what gemstone resonates with you. If you would love to come on the show, please do so. Come on the show and let the world know how those gemstones resonate with you. How those gemstones, that piece of jewelry, how that piece of jewelry help you create your sound in your story. So, as I always say, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Next week, we will talk about the wonders of Tanzanite. Tanzanite is an absolutely awesome. I'll say hi to my friend Diana Lewis, who is the supreme commander of the Chicago Defender newspaper, one of the oldest Black newspapers of the United States. Tanzanite is, her birthday is in December. Tanzanite is her stone. So I hope she joins us next week. But until then, take the time to think about your story. Take time to think about the people who, when you looked at them, when they saw them, you didn't think nothing of them. And now today they are who they are. Take time to look at your friends and your family and yourself and begin to discover the value of your own stories, of what you want to become. So until then, my name is Barry Mixon. I am a gemological storyteller, and I'll see you next week. And I hope all of you take time to discover the value of your own stories. Until then, au revoir.